electric vehicle (EV) drivers in Florida, home to the second-largest EV population in the country, face significant challenges when it comes to charging infrastructure. From long lines at charging stations to range anxiety on road trips, the lack of an interconnected charging network is a major concern. In a controversial move, President Donald Trump initially pulled the plug on a Biden administration plan to fund such a network. However, facing legal challenges and backlash, the Trump administration reversed course, unfreezing the program and introducing new rules to cut red tape. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy stated, "While I don't agree with subsidizing green energy, we will respect Congress's will and ensure efficient use of federal resources." So, when will Florida see a long-term solution to its charging woes? The answer remains unclear. Some state leaders had linked EVs to woke green infrastructure, and despite being eligible for nearly $200 million in federal funding, Florida has yet to make this money accessible to businesses. The state lags behind in building its charging network, and funding for Miami-Dade and Broward specifically remains frozen. Industry experts, initially concerned about the impact of White House resistance on the EV market, have regained optimism. They believe the Trump administration's pledge to ease certain requirements, such as prioritizing disadvantaged communities, could encourage states like Florida to implement the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure (NEVI) formula program. This could really open up the door for states to realize it's not as hard as they thought and that they can make it happen, said Ryan McKinnon, spokesperson for the Charge Ahead Partnership. However, critics argue that the Trump delay caused more harm than good. Joe Halzo of the Sierra Club, which sued the federal government over the funding shutdown threat, believes the so-called red tape cutting caused a needless 6-month delay. "The new guidance is just window dressing," Halzo said. "We still have an unlawful freeze, and the promised network for Americans is on hold." Halzo criticized the updated rules as bare bones and highlighted the federal government's failure to answer key questions, such as when state plans will be approved and funds released. The new rules also eliminate what some might consider woke requirements, such as using minority-owned businesses, following labor and safety standards, and planning for extreme weather events. Ingrid Malmgren, Senior Policy Director at Plug in America, a national nonprofit for EV drivers, agrees that the tone shift may encourage hesitant states to act. "Those not on board don't have an excuse," Malmgren stated. However, the new rules also mean that certain communities may be left behind in the EV charging upgrade. Without the requirement to install chargers in disadvantaged neighborhoods, there's no guarantee that rural or remote areas will receive the same level of infrastructure as densely populated cities. This was a key reason for the program's creation in the first place, to help businesses cover losses when installing chargers in low-traffic areas that would otherwise be unprofitable. The government's support aimed to ensure consistent coverage along interstates, preventing large stretches from being skipped due to financial unattractiveness. "Nobody should be left behind in this transportation revolution," said Stephen Smith, Executive Director of the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. EVs, with their lower maintenance costs, are valuable to those on low to moderate incomes. Despite federal setbacks, overall charging stations from the private sector are still growing substantially, according to Bill Farrow, co-CEO of Perrin, an EV charging data platform. "We project around 17,000 ports to be installed in the U.S. this year, an all-time high. Of those, maybe 400 will be NEVI charging ports," Farrow said. Not all Biden-era EV charging programs have been resurrected. The Trump administration also paused more than $4.7 million worth of charging station projects in Miami-Dade and over $17 million allocated to the Broward Metropolitan Planning Organization. This funding, part of the Biden administration's infrastructure rebuild program, was intended to help local neighborhoods, particularly underserved and disadvantaged communities, increase the number of chargers in easily accessible areas like schools or parks. The program remains shut down in Miami-Dade and Broward, with no clear timeline for its restart. "We want to see the state engage and hope this won't become a political issue," said Smith of the Southern Alliance for Green Energy. The National Network program also remains in limbo until final regulations are released. While Florida's plan was approved under the Biden administration, states were given until September 10th to submit updates. The details of Florida's spending of over $9 million of the allocated funds are unclear, with the DOT not responding to requests for comment. "We hope this won't be a political football and that the state will take advantage of federal funds to help its citizens," Smith added.